So what do piggyback wire connectors, some masking tape, and some JB Weld epoxy have in common? Well, I used them to hook up my headlights halo rings without cutting or splicing into the factory wiring whatsoever. And on today's episode, I show you how I did it. So stay tuned. What's up, guys? Welcome to Project Porsche. So recently I ordered a inexpensive set of LED projector headlights for the Porsche, and today we're going to be pulling the bumper off the Porsche and seeing if I can't hook up those lights to the blinkers, the driving lights, cover them with protection, and get them installed. Originally, I think these were developed by a company called JW Speaker, and these are basically like a unbranded Chinese knockoff. But they are pretty cool looking, I have to say. They finally came down in price to the point where I felt like it made sense for me to give them a shot. So I put in a slightly lower offer than the lowest priced ones I could find on these that were chrome. I wanted the chrome ones. And they accepted the offer, and here they are, 45 bucks. Ideally, they should make these with a glass lens. That would be way better in my opinion, but I guess plastic is probably way cheaper. They have aluminum, the back is made out of aluminum, and they do that because the LEDs get hot and they use it as a heat sink. You can see it has all the fins on it. And then it also has a white daytime running LED ring around the outside. The ring can be white as like a daytime running light, but it also can switch to amber for when you use your blinkers. So I'm planning to hook that up because I do think it would be cool to see this ring blinking yellow or amber when I use the blinkers. Also, this little car, you know, it can be maybe a little hard to see for some people, so I think having another light and another blinker that people can see from a distance is probably a good thing. I guess that's why they mounted the reflectors on the side of these cars. It was some like American thing where our cars are all so big that this one is kind of little and low, and so they said you had to have a certain amount of lights or reflectors on them, a certain cross section of area, I think. And that's how we got these goofy round school bus looking reflectors tacked onto the side of our cars here in good old US of A. These things are made out of plastic, so I want to do something to protect them, to make them last longer and prevent them from fading, yellowing, and cracking. So I ordered a couple of different brands of clear headlight protection film. So this is the more expensive stuff. It's Vivid 3M, which is, there's Vivid and then there's 3M, and I guess this stuff is Vivid 3M. This is the lesser expensive stuff. Optics, new clear bra. I got both of them off of Amazon. So this is 12 by 72. This one is smaller, and this stuff is more expensive. So I think what I'm gonna do is try the lesser expensive stuff first. We'll see how it goes. If it works out good and looks nice, I'll just leave this stuff, and then later on we'll use the 3M. I am curious to see how these do with the old wiring too. They did send adapters, so I could cut this off and solder them in place. The only thing is I don't know what gauge these are, or if it's even copper wiring. I would hope that it is, but maybe I won't have to upgrade the wiring because these are so efficient and bright with the stock stuff that I don't have to worry about it. We'll see what happens. These pop-up headlights are cool, but they are kind of a pain in the butt when you want to work on them. Anytime you need to change the lights, you have to open the lights, and then with the way the light switch works, you have to disconnect the battery to make sure that the lights don't close back down while you're working on them. One screw? Is that it? Wow. These little screws are, at least on my other cars, are always notorious for rusting out, and then you end up stripping the heads, or these look like they got some sort of galvanized, whether anodized. I just put some anti-seize grease on those screws when I put them back in. I was trying to take the light out without bending the factory wires at all. Some corrosion on there. Being that they're old, they could be brittle, and I don't want to create any stress fractures in there that I don't have to. It is possible to pop the wires out of that plastic plug and clean them off that way.
Man, these are pretty corroded, you guys.
But I just got in there and cleaned it without taking the plug apart.
It's actually a lot better than I thought it was gonna be.
What do you know, guys?
I'm doing something that works.
And that actually worked pretty good, so I was able to just go ahead and plug the light in.
I think I am going to put some plastic around this.
Here it is.
There is like sharp metal back here that this wiring is gonna be rubbing against.
So I just added some of that wire loom to protect that wire in case it ended up rubbing on
Just
anything.
a little bit of protection. Over there like that. Wunderbar. Damn it. Oh, don't kneel on something sharp like that. Oh, it's not good. I think I just punctured my kneecap. Yeah, I should have been planning on that. I need a magnetic screwdriver.
I had to pull that plastic off before I secured the ring down tight. And then open up the headlights so I could figure out what to do with the wiring.
Let's butt up against this thing. I was thinking about just wrapping it with Tessa tape. Then maybe securing it to this with a zip tie.
Next, I take the car outside and compare the headlights.
Are you gonna stay put while I go out and test my headlights? In the dark? Are you in the dark too, Miss Munchkin? Alright, I'm going outside, Munchkin. You be good. We'll see what happens.
So I took the car outside and shined the lights on the garage door to see if I like these new lights. And you could see there that the pattern is a lot brighter.
Alright, let's see if we can make these plastic headlights last a little bit longer than, I don't know, a couple of years. What I got? Vivid 3M clear paint.
So this was the 3M Vivid. And then the lesser expensive stuff is this Optics stuff.
Tint film includes 3 layers: adhesive layer, vinyl layer, protective layer.
So I didn't really know. I had never used this stuff before, so I went online to find out the best way to do it. And most of the things that I read recommended using water. So I decided to try that first. So I got my spray bottle of water out and coated that plastic and tried to secure it down. This was the first time I used this film and I really didn't know what I was doing. I kind of had to figure it out as I went. Some of the things I read on the internet suggested using water, but after I tried that, I decided it just wasn't the best way to do it, and I decided to do it dry. I needed to use the heat gun in order to shape that plastic to make it stretch around the shape of the headlight. So I just did it dry after that. It's not perfect. I've got a couple of wrinkles in there and a couple of air bubbles.
Well, there's some air bubbles, but at least it's on there. And I mean, I gotta admit, it's actually pretty dang clear. So I'm gonna do the other light with this stuff, and we'll call that good for now, and then put those on the car. I think the easiest thing to do is to just pull the bumper off, and then I can wire into the side markers that way, because that bumper is only held on with 2 bolts, and then everything is, the wires and everything are exposed for the blinkers right behind that. So alright, bumper bolt is 19 millimeter.
One of the blinker housings there is broken, so you can actually remove it without having to take those rubber bumpers off of the front of the bumper. But the other one isn't, and the only way to remove those blinker housings is by taking those rubber bumpers that are screwed to the front of the bumper off.
And I ain't never been a Coldplay music fan.
So, it's just kind of a pain in the butt.
I just wanna hold you close, baby, your heart, baby. Can't you see this old bar has been alone?
Those screws that hold those blinker housings in place were frozen in place. So I put some penetrating lubricant on them from the back side, and then later on I go back and unscrew those screws. I rigged up a jumper wire to figure out where I needed to wire into these headlights. there's two wires coming out of the back of the headlight besides the main plug.
That's flat blinker.
The green one is for your blinkers and the red one is for the driving light.
Cool. Okay, green is blinker.
The cool thing is, all you need to do is connect the hot wires from the blinkers and the driving lights because they have a common ground that goes through the other plug of the headlight. And when you do, they'll ground through the main plug.
I wonder if it would be worth getting a new plug for this and then like rigging something up that way. Instead of having to cut into the factory wiring, you just plug that into here like as if this, you know, just put something between these wires and wire into that. That way you don't have to go into these wires and hack them all apart. Things will make you go, I don't know. I mean, I don't even need to do that either. I could just rig up my own wires.
I ended up finding these piggyback wire connectors and I decided to use these to make my adapters. So after I came up with my piggyback connector idea, I took out the housing and cleaned up that plug and then started covering it with masking tape so I could create my own epoxy adapter.
I'm just gonna get out the Dremel and I'm gonna cut the prongs off of this. Turning this into a thing I can use.
That set of Dorman piggybacks had 3 different sets of adapters, and I used 2 of the same style connectors that were in that Dorman package, and then I needed one more connector for the ground, so I just modified one of the other styles of connectors that were in that package for that. So there's the connector that I made for the ground.
See if I can't make an adapter for this thing, so I don't have to go tearing into my wiring.
And then later on, when I make the second one, I ordered up some piggyback connectors that were all the same style, and I just used 3 of those on the other light. I really tried to make sure these were all securely on those posts and pressed down. And then after I had them where I wanted them, I wrapped around the outside with masking tape. And I covered the tops of those wire connectors with tape also to prevent any epoxy from getting stuck where I didn't want it. Here I'm clipping that last bit of tape apart so I know the epoxy will go down in between those connectors.
I don't want to get this on my good shirt. I gotta be careful.
After I had it taped up and ready to go, then I started mixing up my epoxy. Basically, I'm creating my own plastic plug that has prongs sticking out of the side so I can connect my halo wires to that. I had a couple of these medical syringes that I had saved for arts and crafts projects like this, and I ended up using those to squirt the epoxy into that masking tape mold. I just kept filling the masking tape mold up until I reached the top of where I wanted it to stop at the base of those connectors. And it actually worked pretty well.
This actually worked, you guys. I'm just gonna let it get hard overnight. If you can see that. Those are 2 piggyback leads.
So there's part 1 of my Headlight Halo episode. Be sure to check back for part 2 where I show you how I hooked up these adapters that I made to get the halos on my headlights working. Thanks for watching the show, guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. The algorithm really likes comments, so shout out to all my old friends, shout out to all my subscribers. Hope everybody is doing good, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.
This is pretty much the worst video ever made.